Thanks a ton for coming. And we're talking about recurring giving. And Christy, I'm not going to give too much of it away, but Christy Jeffries is here with us. Christy and Jason have known each other since what, 2011, you say, or 11 years?
Yeah, about 11 years. Yeah.
2012. All right. Awesome. And Christy's a friend at HGA and has done a tremendous amount of work and really, really good and profitable work in the nonprofit space. So we have her on today, and she wants to talk in real terms about what she did about recurring donations. We would call it like monthly recurring donations in this case, right, Christy? Yeah. So awesome. Thanks everyone for coming. We've got chat feature, obviously. Feel free to use that with questions. If you haven't been here before, a couple things. This is not your grandmother's webinar. This is a very interactive webinar where you can ask as many questions as you want, and we'll get to them. You've got a couple experts, not named Trevor, on today. So please take advantage of their time and stay till the very end, because we're going to give away an item that you can use at your next event. If you're watching this as a recording, do us a favor, subscribe, like, rate, review, all the above, and leave us a comment or any questions you might have, and we'll get to those as well. So thanks everyone for coming. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Christy. Appreciate it.
Stay to the end and win.
That's right.
Yep. We're going to give away a trip that you can use to raise more money.
Yep.
And so anyway.
Yeah.
Well, Christy, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing this. You know, I went through this whole thought process of what I called micro giving a few years ago. And I still think there's validity to it, but you actually did it. This was at Catholic Charities of Oklahoma City, over a course of about 2 years. You took them from almost nothing to significant monthly donations.
Awesome.
It was 4 years.
4 years. Okay.
But no,
time flies. I can't keep up anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I just didn't want anybody to think that I did it that quickly.
But it's worth it. It was worth it.
That would have been amazing, though.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for inviting me to speak about this. I was sharing with Jason and Trevor before we kind of got started that I'm currently, kind of looking right now for my next career move. And they always ask you, what are you most proud of? And this recurring gift program is what I say. So awesome. I attended a webinar just like you guys are doing today about recurring gifts, and went and talked to my boss about implementing it for Catholic Charities, and she was on board. It's a little bit of a tortoise and the hare. It's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. I promise.
Cool.
So at Catholic Charities, I started the recurring monthly gift program with about 200 donors who were already doing it. They were already, in the loop. And what I did was I focused on people who gave $1,000 and under, but gave like a one-time gift. So I didn't have to go out and acquire a new list of people. They were already in the donor database. So we pulled the list for people who had given one time under $1,000, and we sent them a new letter. And we basically just said, thank you for your one-time gift. Would you consider doing a recurring monthly gift so that, per se, like your $10 a month could provide 10 snack packs to homeless people, which would be $120 a year. And we would give them these. I've heard Jason talk about this so much, and it's so important. There are a million ways that you can spend that money, right? But you have to give them something to hold on to.
Yep.
So we would say $10 a month, $120 a year, $20 a month would keep the lights on for somebody at $240 a year. $40 a month would supply a baby with formula for $480 a year. And we went up to maybe around $100 a year. We didn't really go much more than that.
100 a month or 100 a year?
100 a month.
100 a month. Okay.
1,200. Yep. Cool.
We gave them 4 examples. And so the highest one we did was 100. And that was to take a woman from homelessness into housing. So after we sent that out, well, let me kind of backtrack a little bit. We first wanted to come up with some benefits for these people. And that was what I kind of learned in the webinar. So the benefits we decided to create were to create a society, and we call it the Halo Society. because you're going to go straight to heaven if you give. But every quarter we would send out a digital newsletter. And so it would highlight a program, an employee, a donor, and also we would invite them to an event. We had 2 events a year. And so we wanted to try to increase our event exposure as well. You guys, our digital newsletter had a 40% open rate. So
Wow.
in case you don't know what the average is, it's between 10 and 17. So a good open rate would be 27%.
Yep.
So we knew that people enjoyed being in the society, learning about our organization. And it was part of our strategic plan as well, because we really felt like people didn't know how many programs we had. And, it wasn't like an elevator pitch where you could just say, this is what Catholic Charities does in under, a minute.
It was an education, it sounds like.
Yeah, because we had 14 programs.
Yeah.
So we would just highlight a program, highlight an employee so they could get to know us better, highlight a recurring donor.
So good.
And, put their picture up there and have them explain why they chose to give in the recurring fashion.
Yep.
And then, now you can tailor your benefits to your nonprofit. So this might not work for everybody, but I know of a nonprofit animal rescue that, like, by becoming a monthly donor, you could name a pet that was up for adoption. Another nonprofit lets you have lunch with the executive director. I mean, you can really tailor this to your audience.
Mhm.
But this was what we decided to do.
Mhm.
And it worked.
Yeah.
So every year, I would say we would increase about 150 to 200 donors.
Mhm.
So that was kind of the goal that we set for ourselves. Every year, we would try to get 100 to 150 more donors. And so we would include that on our website. The Halo Society was on the website. We would go out and talk to churches, Catholic churches, obviously, about how they could become a recurring donor. And then every other year, we would ask for an increase. And And so what we would do is we would say, thank you for your recurring gift of $20 a month. Would you consider increasing your gift to $30 this year? And we were very specific about the ask. We didn't leave it up to them to try to figure out what their increase would be.
Hey, let me ask you, Christy, just so I understand. So was the Halo Society, was it just for these recurring donors?
Yes.
So
So
smart.
this
I
was
love the
really
branding.
exclusive thing.
Super good branding.
Regardless
Yeah.
of whether it was 10 or 100,
So
whatever,
smart.
that was put them in there. Okay. That's
You're
really
a
good.
part of something. You're a part of something
Mhm.
so good. So
Yeah.
good. Yep.
Were you able to, did you, was there any like replication of, and I'm thinking resource wise. Okay. I'm thinking if I'm already got, I've got a newsletter and I've got this going on and digital and how, as far as resource wise, did y'all recycle some of this stuff and then just kind of this was all 0 to 1 and you really made this a special deal for them?
0 to 1 made it a special deal for them.
Okay, good. That's what, so tell me, so you were successful in going from having 200 and 350, adding about 150 a year. So what was the total deal? And then asking them to increase their deal. So when in that 4-year span, what did it start and what was your end? Like, what was the monthly donations?
So that's what was so great about this program is we started to analyze the data, because you know you're doing well, but you're like, okay, where's this money coming from?
Yep.
And every week I would do, like, here's where we were last year, here's where we are this year. Where's the increase coming from? Where are the decreases? The increase consistently was coming from recurring donations.
Right.
So I want to say we were at 200,000 when I started, and when we finished, we were at $600,000.
Wow.
600,000 annually or monthly?
Annually.
Yep. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So that is money that the Catholic Charities can count on.
Yep.
Every year.
Waking up out of bed. Yep.
So if we set, our goal at 3 million, well, then we only have 2.5 to raise.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
2.4, sorry.
Totally. No, we get it.
But
Got it worked.
Kind of lost my train of thought.
No.
Well, I'm going to ask a question.
yeah.
I want to ask a question. This kind of goes back, and I want to just be just that way, kind of clear it up for everybody.
Sure.
When you were talking about, attaching it to the mission,
Yes.
you were very specific that this is an example. This isn't a restricted gift, and that these are general funds.
Great question.
And I think Becky made that question, and I think that's the key. We, just want to tie things back to the mission, but there's a difference, because I know everybody gets kind of carried, well, I don't want to have this restricted gift. I don't think that that's a problem. And it sounds like that's how you guys, for example, $10 would do, this for a day. And that way they understand what that impact, that even $10 has a significant impact. Is that the idea, Christy?
Yes, absolutely. And we, when we would highlight the program in the newsletter, we would talk about how their money was used in the program and how it helped people and how many people it helped, to kind of evaluate, all of the money that you gave went to this.
So good.
So,
when you're pulling this and you're seeing these statistics, where did most of the new donors come from?
I was curious too. Yeah.
So every year we got the opportunity to go out and talk to the churches. And I would say from parish engagement.
Okay. So really it's feet on the ground engagement with the community. And within your context, it was the Catholic community.
Creating awareness.
But also I did an annual letter to Halo Society members, and I will tell you, I hand signed them until I got to about 400, and I was like, I can't continue to do
good for
that.
you.
So tell us about the annual letter.
So the annual letter would just basically talk about, a client. We always tried to highlight a client and tell their story. Then we would do like a video with them. We tried to make it, where it was like social media, newsletter, Sooner Catholic, and then we would go out to the churches, like it all kind of happened at once. So they were getting the message multiple times. So, I'm just really proud of the way this worked and happened. And, I left Catholic Charities knowing that I had set them up for future success, because I will tell you, and I'll get down into this when we start talking about, how and why everybody needs a monthly giving program. But, that was just money they could depend on. And so anyways, recurring donors give an average of 42% more per year than donors who give one-time donations. So that was one thing that we found.
That's pretty, I've heard that similar number to that. And so that's pretty significant.
Well, Jay, you keep saying it, Chrissy, and I think it's worth shining a light on, because we're constantly saying, hey, just because you're a 501c3, you're still running a business. You just have a different tax designation. Any company in the world, whether it's a for-profit company or a nonprofit company, that knows they have $600,000 coming in every year, and like you said, they can depend on that. That is like, that's what would that be? Blue sky. That's massive. Yeah, that's massive.
Is once they started the program, it would go until they told us to stop. So it would go in perpetuity until they told us to stop, taking it out. And I'll tell you, I would say maybe 10 people a year would tell us to stop.
Sure.
Not a lot.
Very, very low attrition rate.
Hey, let me ask you.
Yeah, if you're methodical about the messaging, you're not going to get a lot of attrition, right?
I've got a question on the mechanics of that. I've got a question on just that mechanics, because when you say, they disenroll, did y'all do it was it done like via debit, credit card? Did you set up a ACH, a bank ACH? Was it payroll deduction? All the above?
All of the above.
Cool.
All
Equal
of the
opportunity.
above.
Equal opportunity.
I've got a question. I mean, go ahead, please.
Go to our donate button. Recurring monthly giving was an option, and I have seen a lot of nonprofits not have that as an option, and I just hate that, because I know they're missing out on money.
You're talking about because there's so much that we can relate to real life and consumerism to being a donor, and folks are used to spreading out payments monthly.
Yes,
So
I was gonna.
they're
That's
already conditioned to do that.
me
They pay their
too,
phone
Trevor.
bill month. You know what I mean? It just makes so much sense. Like, why wouldn't you do that? No offense to anyone that's not
Mhm.
doing that, of course, but it just makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just makes
Now,
sense. I
you're
love
not
that.
gonna go ask, somebody who can afford a $10,000 donation for a recurring monthly gift. So these are gonna be people, maybe who make $75,000 a year
Yeah,
and
sure,
below.
Mhm.
sure.
And, they're just more comfortable with the $10 a month than they are with the 120.
That adds up though. That adds
Well,
up big time.
here's something I want to I'm going to kind of tack onto that because we did a lot. I did some research a couple of years ago, a few years ago, like it was 2018, 2019, and it had to do with what I call micro giving.
Mhm.
And it was doing the same kind of thing. And it was where people would do it. And the fact that, the millennial generation's about to inherit 65 billion dollars or trillion dollars. So, they're going to get
Mhm,
all this money that they're going to receive.
mhm.
Um, and that's going to be inherited. And the point was they just give differently,
They
and
do.
they want to spread it around, and they like that ease. They like to be able to just to click and do it. $10 a month here, $5 there, things like that. And when you're able to take that giving and think that way, all of a sudden you realize the law of large numbers. Which one would you rather have? Would you rather have 1,000 people giving you $10 or one person giving you 10,000?
Mhm,
Right.
mhm.
Well, the one person giving you 10,000, if you lose them, they're gone. It's hard to replace that $10,000
Yes.
donor.
Yes. And
If
we're
you have
starting
a
to see
thousand
that.
at $10, it's pretty easy to pick one back up, and it's also a lot, simpler to take that $10 to 15 to 20, 25 to 30 rather than take that $10,000 donor to a $30,000 donor. I think
Right.
that's your point,
Mhm.
right, Christy?
Yes, absolutely. And you're beating me to my points is that
Oh, well,
the way for millennials to give this.
Right.
They
Oh yeah.
already are designed around monthly recurring payments like cell
Yep.
phones, internet,
mhm.
movies,
Yep.
music. So
Everyone is. Yeah,
yeah,
everyone is. Would you, and I want to get to Becky's question as well, Jay, because I actually think it's a good one. And Christy probably has experience with this, whether it was a yay or an nay. But would there be any like text messaging, any options on social channels to start giving this way, or would it strictly be email?
we didn't have a lot of success with the text messaging stuff.
Just
We tried
curious. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it just didn't
Mhm.
work for
Yep.
us. Now that
Okay.
didn't work for, somebody else, but
Tough to tell the story that way, probably, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
we did like a data analysis of the
Mhm.
text messaging thing, and it just wasn't, nobody was using it because we did have like text 99999 and you can give that way, but
Mhm,
not a lot
mhm.
of people were using it. So
Okay. Yeah.
I would say we did some social media, but most of it was mail.
Yeah. Oh,
And
hand mail, direct mail.
yes.
Got it. Oh, gotcha. I thought it was all email. Holy smokes.
Also, I hand signed these letters.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Awesome. Wow.
I had crayon in my hand by the end of that
That's
day.
a whole nother ball of wax when
Well,
it comes to
what was
marketing. Yeah.
do you have any idea what the demographic was? What was the average age of your recurring donor or
I would
anything?
say baby boomers.
Yeah. Okay.
Did
Cool.
we did a data analysis and
Oh,
we
really? So we're talking about millennials. In reality, as it wasn't. It was the older. It was
That's
more.
what's coming. Yeah. That's what's
Yeah.
coming. Yeah.
so what we're starting to see in the nonprofit world, or at least we did at Catholic Charities, was that your older donors are starting to decline in their giving
Yes.
instead of giving more.
Yes. Yes.
So you've got to find that new donor. And I'm just
Always.
saying that the recurring donation is the way to go for
Mhm.
millennials.
Well, I think that's true. Back to the whole thing, they like to give to different, and they're very generous, but
Yes.
they're generous the way that they want to give, not the way that we want to necessarily receive it. And so we've got to be open to that.
Did you get we get to Becky's question about sending out a newsletter to the general public, folks that
Yeah,
haven't
we
given
talked about
before?
that. It's just
Did
the
we
Halo
test
Club.
that?
The Halo
Okay.
Club was the only ones that received it.
Yep.
This was an exclusive piece just for them.
Yep. There wasn't a
And
test to reach out to the general public as well, though, on top of that, or a play with that, or any experience.
Well, when I first started, with the one-time givers under 1,000, that was kind of
Yes.
the first
Yep.
stab at it. And
Okay.
those were people who are already in our system, you know, because it takes more resources and expenses to recruit new donors than engage with existing donors.
100%.
Mhm.
Yep. Gotcha.
So we started to notice that, and I did find this on the internet, that recurring donors have an 80% first year retention rate. So we started to notice they weren't leaving.
Really, yeah, yeah. Well, please don't get angry with me if I use this phraseology, but I just call it low hanging fruit. I think it's
Yeah,
just
it
easier.
is.
You know what I mean? Why push a boulder uphill when you can push it downhill? It just makes more sense. Yeah.
Well, and increased donor retention lowers operating costs, because with the monthly giving program in place, you reduce the pressure and effort associated with constantly soliciting,
Yep.
sustaining donors. And then you don't have to do as much marketing or administrative and postage, you know, you can
Totally.
save on that.
Good.
I
Good.
like the convenience for the donors, because, you know, we gave them the step by step. Here's how you become a Halo Society member. If you guys want to, you can go to catholiccharities.org, catholiccharities.okc.org, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can see the Halo Society, and it explains step by step, because you've got to make it easy for your donors to give.
Mhm.
Don't make
Yep.
it hard.
Of
And
course.
just step
Of
by
course.
step, here's how you become a Halo Society member.
No friction.
Christy,
Yep.
I'm going to ask, what was the biggest pain point?
I'm sorry, what?
What was the biggest pain point? What was the thing that caused the most frustration with your online giving? Just how, you know, because here's what I always say, you know, people come up and they go, man, I really struggle with this. And I'm like, okay, you and every other
Everyone else.
nonprofit out there
Yeah.
have the same
Yeah.
struggle. So
Yeah.
it's okay. That's normal.
Well, let's
So
talk about it. Yeah.
was the biggest pain point or thing that maybe that was a struggle in that
I would
piece?
say there were some times, and I don't know why this happened, but people would go in to increase their gift when we would do the increase ask, you know, 25 to 30 or whatever. And sometimes they would get accidentally double billed,
Oh, yeah.
which was not great.
Yeah.
That didn't happen very often, but it did happen. And so we had to be a little bit more specific about how we handled that. And then every time a recurring donation started, we had to make sure they received a welcome letter. And it was an email. So, but you know, when you're starting off your year, and ours started in September, and you mail out 6,000 letters, you get a lot of emails. And so you had to stay on top of those welcome letters to those Halo Society members, because you didn't want them to just give them, thank you for your gift of $20. You wanted to be like, oh my gosh, welcome to the Halo Society. You're going to get so many benefits with this.
Yep.
You're going to get sneak peek announcements. You're going to, you know, find
Good.
about our programs. You're going to learn about our employees.
Awesome.
So that was challenging, but
You people fight it. You people fight it.
dissipated after the big, you know, send off. It would dissipate, but at those first couple of months, I was sending a lot of emails.
Yeah.
But
Hey, Christy,
go ahead.
Becky asked a question. Was this the only thing that you were doing while you were there?
Oh, no.
I think she's asking about
I knew the
time.
answer to that question.
I already knew the answer, but I wanted to, I just wanted to let you answer. So why don't you, you know, what was kind of the time? I mean, what was your, like a percentage of time dedicated to this weekly basis, if you want to?
I would say a good portion, I would say probably 50 to 60%. Now, I was the director of annual giving. So, I mean, that was what
that was your deal. Yeah.
And then the other 40% was for events.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And so I just think the communication built better relationships with our donors. And then, you know, as they're reading about our programs, they're going out in the community, telling people about our programs. Makes them feel good, you know, to know
100%.
what they're doing.
It's pretty significant if you go from 200,000 to, if you go from 200,000 to 600,000, you know, when you do triple up like that, that's pretty
something was resonating.
Increase.
Something was resonating, right? That's the idea.
Yeah. And well, you know what, when we started this, we didn't know that was going to happen.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, fundraising is a little bit of experimentation.
Yeah. Well, you're
And,
shooting the arrow. You're shooting the arrow. You don't know where it's going to land sometimes. It's like parenting.
Mhm.
Right? You're just like,
But I think it helped attendance at some of our events because we were,
for sure.
including event stuff in the fold.
Yeah.
And so because I was over events, we hit major goals in our events as well. I mean, beating
yeah.
prior goals,
Yep.
and nobody's beat them since. How about that?
Jason and I have been talking about this something very similar over the last 2 days, as a matter of fact, and we just recorded a podcast about it. And I just think that it's just your branding.
Mhm.
You're creating, you know what I mean? You were just doing a really, really, really great job of branding
Yes.
and why and compelling people to want to get involved, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, I don't think you can ever go wrong with that. Yeah, I just, you're shining a light on it consistently, creatively. It was working. It created dollars, but you never know. I mean, just that it's just going to create that what critical mass. You know what I mean? People are just going to get on board, especially if you're in a community like the one you're operating in. Just makes sense. I think it's
Yeah.
smart.
So if you want to increase donor retention,
Yeah.
decrease operating costs, provide convenience for your donors, build better relationships, you need to have a recurring monthly gift program.
Love that.
Well,
Love
let's talk about, I think everybody probably is leaning in going, okay, yeah, this makes sense. But, kind of to Becky's point, how do you reasonably apply that with a smaller staff? And I just happen to know Becky's team. She's a team of about one. And
Yeah.
I want to say 3. Well, now it's like 3. I
no,
think.
they've
I think it's
grown,
now 3 or
but
4.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm kind of teasing Becky a
No,
little
I
bit.
know.
But uh, the whole thing is where, because I guess where I'm trying to say is sometimes when you start a task like this, I always think about the cartoon of Bugs Bunny in the airplane, and he goes up there and all he sees are all these switches and stuff. And it's just, it's coming at you like, where do I start?
Yeah.
And I always,
For sure.
how do you eat an elephant? It's just one bite at a time. And so
Totally.
where would you tell, just based on your experience and what you would do, and whenever you go back, whatever organization you wind up with in this next round, um, where do you think where's the first place to start to say, okay, we
Time
want to do a
management.
recurring donation. Where do we go? Do what?
I would say time management, because I feel like in the nonprofit world, you can get pulled 6 different ways every single day.
For sure.
And you just have to manage your time. So, every morning when I would come in, I would designate a certain time that I was going to do X, Y, Z. So if I was going to send emails to donors, I did that between 8 and 9. But, if I needed to make phone calls, I did that between 10 and 11. Very time management, organized is how I would describe myself. And it's hard sometimes because you got people coming to your door and want to ask you questions about communications or parish engagement. And, sometimes I just had to put my do not disturb sign on my door and just say, I need to work on this, because it was a lot of time.
For sure.
Yeah. So the first thing that you say is just go ahead and block the time, designate some time to do this, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
And then what would be the first action after that you would do, as far as, I know you said look into your own list, look into your own donors and start analyzing that data. Start
Okay,
there.
I see what you're saying. I'm sorry.
No,
So yes, start with your own database.
Okay.
Have your database coordinator. If you don't have that, pull it yourself. Anybody who's given a one-time gift of $1,000 or less, those are going to be your people that you want to target. It's going to be your target audience. And then you start to create your letter and you come up with your benefits, because like I said, you can make those however you want.
Like just randomly throw some benefits out there that you guys just kind of pull that, like you said, early announcements. You said, well, early announcements on something. What else was something that you guys did? Things that don't cost you money. I guess I'm thinking things that don't cost you money.
Yeah. So we would talk about since we had 14 programs, we would highlight a program. And so let's say we would highlight adoption. And we would talk about, you know, how the money that they give goes to baby formula, diapers for foster parents, parental education for the foster parents. And we would talk about that. And then we would follow up, like if, you know, we had these thank you cards that rotated. So hopefully nobody ever got the same one twice, but we had 6 rotating thank you cards. And so one of them was a picture of a baby that said, thank you for feeding me over the last, you know, year. We had one that said, you know, I'm a refugee. Thank you for what you did to help my family find a house. Because, you know, the money, like I said, we have to give them something to hold on to. $10 a month is, you know, feeds 10 people a snack pack. But that money, as we all know, that money gets spent a million different ways.
Sure. Sure.
Becky, to answer that question,
another
it
great
was
question. Yeah.
well, it's $1,000 and below is what Christy was saying. So if they gave $25 one time, they got asked to be a part of the Halo Club.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
I'm speaking for your time, Chris. It sounds like we're gonna have to connect you and Becky so you can give her some.
Yeah, I was gonna say
yeah.
she could reach out to me, and I'd be happy to maybe help her come up with some benefits for her organization.
Awesome. Good.
You know, so we talked about you know, where to start at first. We talked about, you know, how to get that going. When you talked about you know, that amount, how did you guys calculate that? I'm curious because you said, look, we were very specific. If they were $20, we would take them to $30. We were very specific about what we asked instead of just putting it out there.
As opposed to like go from 20 to 100.
What was that? What was that formula that you guys used or that you used? Was it just kind of, okay, well, we're just going to do this 50%? Is it 10%? How'd you do that?
That's exactly how we did that, Jason. So, the finance director and I sat down and we were like, okay, if somebody gives between $0 and $100, we want to ask them for a 5% increase. And whoever gives between $100 and $250, we want to ask for 10% increase. And that's pretty much how we did it.
Okay.
It was mathematical. And then we would just ship that to our mailing house and it would plug it in.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, any other questions? No, it does totally. No, totally. I think one of the things that I think that one of the things that can seem overwhelming because and I'm not picking on the situation you're at. You know, you had there was pretty good sized staff there where you guys were at because you all raising a lot of money and do a lot and do a lot of things.
I think we had 7 development staff.
Yeah. So, you know, you go from a pretty good sized staff to like Becky saying a staff of 1.
Right.
And now she's going, well, I'm stretched pretty thin anyway, but this is something I want to do. And I think that maybe something in here, Becky or anybody else that's looking at this, that's thinking about how to do this, there's probably some things that were not so productive that we might have pruned away from the program that y'all might have done before or that you might look at. I know everybody thinks that they want to keep doing everything the same way, the same deal. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's some things that Christy, you did in your program that may not be applicable to somebody else's. I mean, you know, you guys had captured audience basically when you would go to the church, you know, and do that. Well, that's not going to be the same thing. It's not going to be there, but there's other ways that you can promote that. And, you know, your mission may not be so specific. It may be broad. I think, you know, like sending kids to camp.
Yes.
You put that out there and you say, okay, this is what we're doing. And this is what it's going to take. You know, when you give $10 a month and, you know, over a year's time, you're sending a kid to camp or something like that. I'm just.
Sure. Yeah. We even did a piece. Again, everything was very experimental.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess where I'm trying to go with this is let's take this to scale. You know, maybe for your organization, you went from $200,000 to $600,000 a year in giving. But if you've got 0, or maybe if you're at, you know, 10,000 and you go to $30,000, what's that worth? as far as time wise, and you start looking at that time deal and the LTV, you're saying you have an 80% retention. So that means we're probably going to keep them the first year, the second year, the third year. So let's just say you keep them 5 years. Well, that $1,000 donor becomes a $5,000 donor over 5 years, and it exponentially grows. I guess that recurring piece of it's just real fascinating to me because the long-term value of that gift.
I have another little statistic that I found on the internet, and it said the lifetime revenue of these sustaining recurring supporters is 600 to 800% higher than your annual giving donors.
Wow, that's pretty significant.
Yeah. And again, we didn't know this was going to happen. We just started pulling reports to see where the money was coming from, and we were like, wow, we have more recurring donors this week.
Question. So, Chrissy, was it like it was pretty immediate success, or was there a lot of testing? It sounds like it was pretty immediate success.
Yep.
If you didn't experience that immediate success, I mean, I'm a big believer in like, hey, when it's feeling like, you're questioning what you're doing, and it's like, oh man, we're not getting the return right now, but I feel it will work. I have experience. I'm hearing Chrissy talk about it. Would you encourage people to just like stick with it, bear down, keep testing, keep offering? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Because there were some pieces we did that didn't hit as well as others. And that's what I was getting ready to talk about was
totally.
There was a piece that we did where we had an outline of a woman, because we really do cater more to women and children than we do to men at Catholic Charities. But
sure.
She was pregnant, but it was just like a silhouette. And so like for her feet, we put, you could buy for $20, you could buy X amount of bus passes for a homeless person for the year. And then we did her head, and that was, counseling. If you give this amount of money per year, you could help a person with counseling.
How'd that campaign work?
It didn't hit as well as we thought, and we thought it was just the smartest thing we'd ever done.
You thought it was soulful, and it made all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
So okay, and then so was your success in certain copy? I know you sent out hundreds and hundreds of them, right? Of different versions. It sounds like. Was the success of the copy more simple? Was it, kind of give me a success story, if you don't mind, for the audience?
I would say the ones that did the best were the ones that I hand signed. And I realized that is not, I mean, like I said, once I got to 400, I was like, whoa, continue to do this.
Yeah.
But I would say that was the most successful. It was just a standard letter.
Yeah.
And it gave 3 to 4 different ways that you could help somebody who was, low income.
Would you consider it now, in recollection and what you know about this kind of copy and stuff, would you consider that it was like shorter and sweeter, frankly?
Yep.
And then I'm also a big believer in this. I mean, you hand signed them. Folks aren't used to that.
No.
Right?
Yes.
Folks aren't used to like constant thank you and graciousness and what have you, I think, in today's society. And we call it internally, we call it interrupting the loop.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Like it just stopped. They're like, oh, okay, whoa, this is serious. Like I'm gonna take this a little more seriously. And whatever you can get, because now, I mean, I used to talk about interrupting the loop in like the late 20s, like before 2010. I was like learning a little bit about linguistics and whatnot, and messaging and the different roles that I had at the time. And I was like, man, if we can just interrupt their loop, because they're getting so much information. And now in 2023, how many letters, emails, the phones, which is a walking video camera and television set, the laptops, the television, how much information are they getting, where it's even more important that we focus on interrupting the loop to get attention, and attention will lead to awareness, caring, giving. Yeah. So cool. Yeah.
I got quite a few phone calls that said, you hand signed this. And I said, yes, I did.
You're like, hey,
they're like, that's impressive.
You hold the phone and tell the staff we are on to something here. Yeah. That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool.
Okay, another question here. Did you, whenever you sent this out, did you give everyone the same 3 suggested giving levels, or did you regulate that based upon the amount of the gift that they had?
It was the same. And it was about 4 different
So there was
examples of how their money
consistency.
could
Yeah.
be used,
Mm-hmm.
which
Cool.
also taught them what we did, you know?
Yeah. Educating. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's huge because there's consistency there. If someone said no month one, they keep getting it. Oh, wow, this is okay. I'm used to seeing that. It's like the refrigerator magnet. I'm used to seeing that. And then month 4 they give or what have you, or month 9 or what have you. Yeah. It's awesome. Really cool. Love it.
Okay. Any other questions out there for Christy about this, about how to put this together and get this in your system? You know, I think that's, I keep thinking, I do want to just ask kind of, you know, we're talking about sending the letters and mail, and obviously we've got salaries involved and things like that. But
Right.
what were some of the expenses that you guys, and I know that, you know, when you look at managing overall the recurring giving that there was, but give us some kind of idea, maybe what that expense looked like. If you,
It was nominal.
nominal.
Nominal
Mm-hmm.
compared to what it was bringing in. It was
Yeah.
nominal. So I want to say we spent maybe $800 on the letters, and then, you know, multiply that out with postage,
Right.
stamps.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
I
That
think
and
that there's
Christy
validity in
handwriting
direct
every letter.
mail.
No, I'm kidding. Audra, I hope
Mine is
Audra
that
was,
part.
I'd asked that question. Yeah, she just signed the letters. She didn't handwrite them.
Yeah, that was I'm sorry. I think it was Audra had that question. I was like,
Yeah.
nah, I don't think she hand wrote 400 letters. I mean,
Yeah.
that's awesome. If you
No,
did.
no, just hand signed.
That
Oh,
would
gosh.
really interrupt the loop.
That would be, yeah.
It's like, this is your handwriting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. No, I love.
Then
Hey,
I
but
just
I
want to
mean,
say
yeah,
one
so
little
good.
last thing that,
Yeah.
again, I found on the internet is that it shows that a donor who gives monthly by credit card or EFT will stay active for an average of 4 years.
Wow.
And we definitely
Wow.
found that to be true because it just would grow year over year. So my goal every year was to grow it by 100 or 150, and I would meet it every year.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I think that's the whole thing is if you look at it in incremental growth, whenever it's going to go on the time, and you look at it from that standpoint, when somebody has a little fluctuation in their income or whatever, that's probably not going to be what they cut. You know, they're going to cut the cable, they're going to cut things off, they're going to do different things, but and then it's not enough to hassle, you know, the hassle of having to go and do it. And I mean that in the best way. Okay.
We just wanted to make sure they didn't throw it away. Look
Yeah.
at it, you throw it away, you know? And so
Hey,
we
we're
did
getting
use special stamps. We didn't just use flag stamps. We used stamps that kind of spoke to the mission
I
a
think
little
it's
bit.
smart. I think it's
Yeah.
smart. I'm telling you. Well, the color of the copy and highlighting things and all that is a whole nother nuanced. You know, we talked about the mechanics of it, and now we're kind of getting some really good questions, by the way.
Yeah.
And I want to,
Hey,
yeah, go ahead, brother.
Go ahead. I was just going to ask Jesse, tell us about what kind of, you know, you're just saying that you've been contacting them manually via text message. What kind of response have you been getting with that?
And then what system did you use to manage the monthly giving? Becky's asking.
Mm-hmm.
Razor's Edge NXT.
Okay, cool. Razor's
Blackbaud,
Edge.
it's a Blackbaud product.
Blackbaud, yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
Out of Texas. Audra had a question. I find it more difficult for people to open a letter if the address label is printed. Once again, you're talking about the nuance of the stamp, printed labels, things about that. Kind of give us some feedback of, and success that you had with that, Christy, please.
So I would say definitely use a stamp. Don't use your nonprofit postage because sometimes those get tossed in the trash.
A little spammy. Yep.
Stamp, it's going to cost a little bit more, but it's going to be worth it in the long run.
Okay.
Remind me of the question again. I'm
No,
sorry.
no,
Well, I was
it's
asking
okay.
about
It's
putting
okay.
having it labeled.
Labels,
versus being,
okay.
Printed
Yeah.
labels.
Yeah, how'd the
Yeah.
label?
We
What do you
did
think
do
of that?
labels. We did
Yeah.
do labels because if you, so the other choice would be to not use labels and use, I guess, like a printer to print them off, which makes it kind of look like a bill. The label is an extra, it's just like putting a stamp on it. It's an extra step you have to do. And so they know that you put that on there. And then if you send a windowed envelope, they think it's a bill.
100%.
So I
That's a no-no.
definitely 100% labels stamps.
That's a no-no. Yep, I'm with you. Okay. Does that help? Hopefully, Audra.
You know, I want to bring up something you just said, because I know when I usually check our mail and just here at the house, and whenever I go and I start flipping through that stuff, it's kind of amazing because you're so right on about, I can tell if it's a spam junk mail deal that just kind of goes to the bottom
Yep.
and, don't even look at it versus the ones with a stamp on it. And I do get quite a bit of mail from nonprofits.
Oh yeah.
For me personally, I never get the whole thing with the label doesn't mean anything. My wife doesn't like it when her name's not on there. I'll tell you that. She always likes to see her name on there.
Always.
And because I get stuff just with my name on all, just because more people know me. But I think that's all those things,
They add up.
Trevor mentioned, it all adds up. But
Yeah.
can I say this? You don't have to be perfect to start. You just have to start. The most important thing is to just take that first step.
Cool. I think.
Just curious, Jason, would she be okay with Mr. and Mrs. Jason Ludlow?
Yes, she would be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was our preferred salutation. So.
Yeah, she just wanted to be acknowledged. She's like, well, I'm on the check too.
Yes.
I mean,
So
and
important.
it's funny because my wife, and so she's so easygoing about that stuff. But it's just it's just a little thing for her. She's like, I guess I didn't write to be on the invitation on the envelope.
I hope he helped you, Audra, with the mechanics of the envelopes and labels and stuff like that. Jesse had a question about. I just want to make sure we answered it properly.
Okay.
Biggest headache is contacting donors whose recurring contribution doesn't process. Is that like a credit card processing issue, or the money's just not going through because there's API disconnection, or what's going on there? Yeah.
Well, that's
and
something that comes up.
Okay.
We all have an expiration. We have an expiration date on our credit card, and that comes up. So how did you guys handle that? Did y'all preempt that, or did
we had a dedicated staff person for that sort of stuff?
Okay.
Because it happens all the time, your card's expired. We would call them, ask them for the new number. Sometimes you have more than once.
You would call them.
Call.
Yeah.
Only call, send an email and call, send a letter, email and call. Talk to me.
Phone call first.
Okay.
If that didn't work, email, but phone call.
And Jesse, you're texting right now. You're texting. Is that like that's obviously not a mass text. It keeps me busy contacting every day. Yeah. Okay. Maybe very delicate nudge, Jesse. Personal text is awesome. Maybe phone call. Yeah. Because it'll say where it's coming from the high school. You know what I mean? I'm a big believer in alumni giving. I mean,
can I ask Jesse a question? Does she know these people she's texting, or is she a stranger?
She or he, I don't know, Jesse. Yeah.
She or he, sorry.
No, you're okay.
If it's a stranger situation, I do not recommend a text message, because we did a campaign text messaging campaign that went real south doing that. People were like, who are you? Where did you get my number?
Right.
Et cetera, et cetera. But if you know them, then I think that's okay.
Me. Yeah, I was going to say, if it's kind of like if it's the thing of it, I understand exactly, Jesse.
Yeah.
Like at my son's school, Laura was the person, so, hey, it's Laura, we get the message, hey, it's Laura, it's at Crossings. Everybody knows who that would be. And I think that's probably the situation there. So, I think all those things are above. I think phone calls are great. I think, one is, it all depends on how it is. Millennials and younger folks, if they're 30 years and under, text them, because that's how they don't even know how to talk on a phone.
Yeah. Like, why are you calling me?
Exactly. And so I think all those things, but I think everybody kind of falls into that. And there's a difference where you send a text, hey, hey, Christy, hey, it's Jason over at ABC Charity. Just want to let you know your credit card, shows it expired. Just wanted to see if we get that renew, get your new card number. Happy to help you with it if you want to give me a call. Something like that's going to help those things, because that's retention. And so you think about that, you've got an 80% chance to retain that person rather than just, go and finding somebody new. So I do think that's something significant.
Yeah.
I've seen there's a lot of programs out there that do this, manage this. They'll actually send a notification like, because I get some of them.
Right.
Hey, your card expiring in such
months
and such,
in advance.
ending in this, expires this month. Be sure to renew it. And
it's our pleasure, Jesse. Thanks so much for coming on. Yeah. Hopefully we helped you in answering those questions. Yeah.
Last
Hopefully
questions. We got, we're going to
Yeah.
wrap up here in just a minute, but I want to make sure we didn't get, somebody didn't
Yeah.
have a question or something
Hopefully
like that.
this brought a lot of value, but energized a lot of thought about implementing a program like this, no matter how big or how small, and diving into it, because there's, like I said, I hope you don't mind the phrase, but it's low hanging fruit. It's there. It's creative. It's building awareness as well. There are other, byproducts of this type of campaign, and we're proving that it works, right? So I mean, it's good. Really
I
good.
was also thinking, how else could I have raised $600,000 in 4 years? Well, I could have gone to the non-low hanging fruit and asked really wealthy people to give, but those just aren't as easy to get.
We're big fans of doing both, but very calculated. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. And
well, I think there's a point to what you're saying. It's a whole, you have to go and ask the big donors every year. Every year you've got to go back to the well, hit them again. I mean that in a very simple way, but you've got to go do that every time. So I do think that's a really thing, having that recurring revenue is real significant.
For sure.
Okay. Well, I'm going to draw a
engaged.
winner here in just a second. We've got, it's
Cool.
about get the winner pulled.
Yep. Thanks everybody, by the way. Awesome.
Yeah,
and thank you,
everybody.
Christy. Fantastic.
Great questions.
Yeah. Pages, notes, ideas.
That's great. I love that, Beverly.
Yeah, cool. Do you know Bev?
No.
Oh, is she in, are you in Norman, Bev, or are you in Oklahoma City? I'm sorry.
She's in Norman.
That's what I thought. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
she's not too far away, Christy.
Okay. We have a winner, and it's Jill Ebert. Jill Ebert.
Okay.
Give her a big hand. Congratulations, Jill.
Right on,
you
Jill.
won a trip that you can use to raise more money at your next fundraising event. We'll send you some details on that.
Yep.
Thanks. Christy, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate you taking the time.
Awesome.
And thank you all, everybody, for showing up. We really appreciate it. If you're watching this and, if you guys know somebody out there in the nonprofit world that could benefit from hearing this, please share this with them. We'd love to get the word out. And if you're seeing this, give us a remark, comment. You can get a hold of Trevor at hgafundraising.com, myself, Jason at hgafundraising.com, and we'll put Christy on the email when we send this recording out, and you can contact her directly. So if you want to hear more about it.
Just don't send us a letter with the window.
Yeah.
When you reach out.
We throw those in the trash. That's a bill. No.
Oh, cool. Well, hey, you can't say that anymore.
You can't
Jill.
say that anymore, Jill.
No. Sorry. Hey, everybody, come join us next week for episode 119. As mentioned, if you're watching this as a recording, share it with someone in your network, your friend sphere. Leave us a comment, subscribe, and we can't wait to see you all next Thursday for episode 119. Thanks so much, Christy. It means a ton. Really appreciate you. Thanks, Jay. All right. Talk to y'all soon. Okay. Thanks.